Hello, welcome back to Capes and Phasers. I'm Trev as always. That's Grey Gamer 25, or he might be on that side. He's on this side for me. I'm normally in the left, but it doesn't matter.
Whatever side it might be.
You can pretend you're in the hot seat today, Grey. Um, yeah, we have literally just finished watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds. We were on season 3, episode 6, and the title is I don't know if it came from it was an old tale, so it was the
This
Salat
is
who
Salat that
ate
ate
its
his tail.
tail. Right,
Mhm.
and it's a cool title. What do you remember, Gray, where that
Yep.
title came from again?
Well, the reference to the creature to the Salat, whatever, was Spock's pet
Vulcan. Yeah,
when he
that's
was
it,
younger.
Vulcan, yeah.
So it's a Vulcan dog essentially, and he had one, which died. And you never saw that story until they did the animated series in '73, and then they did a whole half-hour series on Spock being a kid and having this Sealot and how sad he was when the Sealot passed and stuff. And then his parents kind of saying like, well, okay, but you're a Vulcan, so don't get too emotional about it.
Mm,
But he couldn't help it because he was half human. So it was actually very good. I mean, the animation was sucked because the animation back then sucked anyway. But the stories were rock solid because they were all written by the same people that did TOS. So, you
genius.
know.
What kind of animal was this Sailot then?
And if I remember right, with the bad animation, it kind of looked like a cross between a dog and a bear cub, kind of. I mean, that's the best way I
Interesting.
can explain it.
Yeah, interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I thought it was like Spock or Lan or someone that came up with that phrase, and it was Spock. Yeah.
Well,
No, it was.
when we first heard the title, I was kind of wondering, like, because I knew it was supposed to be a Kirk centric episode, and I'm going like, so what's the Sailot have to do with this? Because it didn't sound right. I probably would have named it something else, but it's okay because the title did make a lot of sense as we watched the episode, and then you
Yeah.
heard the title come in. So I guess it's fine. But at first, I didn't know why they would name it that. I was like, what?
The
Yeah,
titles of episodes are, you take them with a large pinch of salt. You
yeah,
always take them with a large pinch of salt because it's you don't often get many clues from the title. And
yeah.
yeah, like let's say the ending when we get to that part there, that was pretty cool. So yeah, I was a big fan of this episode. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed it. It was more back to kind of form for Strange New Worlds because this season has been very up and down, I would say. Some good episodes and then some absolute humdingers.
Hmm.
And there may be one humdinger still in there, and I think that's
I hope so.
episode 8 or 9 with the 4.5 Vulcans or whatever it's called, where they're all turned into
Yeah.
Vulcans. And Pike's hair will get even more erect than usual. So, um, give
Well,
me
in
your
this in
thoughts in
this
general.
episode, his hair got messed up, and you see him going like this,
Yeah,
like
I have to
trying to
fix
straighten
it.
that thing.
I don't know how he wears the helmet and then keeps it good afterwards.
Yeah.
He's got skills. Give me your general thoughts about this episode, then, Griff.
Um, I really think, for me anyway, that this is the first 10 I'm going to give uh, the series for an episode. Unless we gave it a 10 before and I don't remember,
No.
that's quite possible. But I'm going a full 10, despite one or two little things that were real little and didn't even bother me. I think everything else was so strong it overcame any maybe slight, inefficiencies, if you want to call it that. Um, what I really thought was cool about the episode was the fact that, and I want to go back eventually and see who wrote it. I was going to try to do that. I didn't do it. But they were able to really encompass the Strange New Worlds crew and what we've been used to, and still get the old TOS feeling going again, all in one
Yeah.
episode. That is not an easy thing to do. And I got to give huge credit to the actors in this particular episode, because they also were doing their best. I think it's Paul Wesley or whatever that plays Kirk.
Yeah.
I mean, he really made an effort to try to encompass what Kirk was about at that age, at that young, being a captain kind of for the first time, because of what happened. And I really thought they did a great job. You started seeing some of what he's made of in the episode, and how that translates to what he becomes, later. So I thought that was really, really good. They really did, and even the repartee going between, you like that fancy French word? They between Kirk and Spock was great too, because they always had that dynamic in the original series, and I thought that they pulled out Ethan Peck and Paul Wesley really pulled it off well. You could see some of the chemistry already happening at an early stage, before they get together mostly. So I really think that was well written, very well directed, very well acted, and they even introduced a new species that are we going to spoil or not
They're
spoil?
always spoiler
Well, I
free.
kind
They're
of
always
figured that.
spoiler
So,
reviews. Yeah.
right. So when we see this giant craft that's destroying planets because it basically needs to mine a particular element. This is the only part I did like the alien, but at that time what I immediately thought about was the Doomsday Machine in the original
Yeah.
series. And so I kind of was going like, you could
Because they're not
have.
supposed to encounter them yet.
Yeah, and this wasn't the Doomsday Machine. It was quite different. I get it, but the point is that it had similarities, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of like, that was the one little thing I had an issue with, but it was far outshined by everything else going out. But I was sitting there going like, nah, why would you want to make a doomsday-ish kind of machine before the Doomsday Machine really comes around, which is later. So that
Mhm.
part got me a little, But like I said, there was so much else that was good about it that kind of, you could overlook it. But the real
Yeah.
twist that I thought was excellent, I didn't see coming whatsoever, was that when they defeated the craft and they blew it up because they had no choice, they were even trying to like save the life of the aliens, which is what Starfleet's about, which you don't always see a lot
Hmm.
in the newer Trek and stuff like that. Not to that degree. So they wanted to try to save them. And then when they all look shocked, I'm going like, why are they all looking shocked? And they find out that everybody that died in the alien ship were humans like them, or a lot of them. And they were just saying like, whoa, wait a minute. And then I thought
Yeah.
what was brilliant was when they sat there and Kirk says, what's that? He says, magnify that right there. And you see the American flag on there, and instantly this is old. I'm getting real old. And then you start getting the feelings of V'ger, if you remember V'ger from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, where the Voyager probe went off and became a giant, whatever. So again, if you want to knock it, you could say the originality of that has been done before. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's fine. So, but I thought the explanation behind it was really great, because they talked about how the ship went out before warp drive, and that these group of people were the best of the best on Earth after World War III had ended, and they went off to try to see what they could do, or repopulate, or do something. And it's funny because that whole explanation has been used over and over again in certain science fiction books. It's also been talked about by scientists years ago. They talked about this for real, like they were going to try, maybe think about doing this, maybe if they had to.
Hmm.
So they kind of took that theory, or that idea, and fleshed it out and said, yeah, what if we actually did do that? And then unfortunately over the 200, 300 years, they morphed into, humans that were, they looked human and everything, but they were just basically monsters, and they were just destroying everything in sight, and stuff, and which is a shame. But they still
Yeah.
felt huge remorse, because at one time their descendants were good people. And so they felt terrible about the whole thing. So
Yeah.
it really was good on so many levels and stuff. I mean, it just really was. And what I really liked about it is, how you and I have always talked about, well, if you're going to interject the humor, you do it at the proper time for the proper reasons,
Yeah.
and so forth. And this was great, because there were some real funny lines here and there, but it did not detract from the overall importance of the story whatsoever. In fact, it
Yeah. True.
actually enhanced the story in many ways. When Palea goes and says, "Wait a minute, I got an idea," and by the way, we find out now she's actually 5,000 years old. We knew she was pretty old, but And so she goes, "This reminds me of the 1980s," and I'm going like, "Oh, what is she talking about?"
Oh, your bum hanging out the window, Gray.
Yeah, the bum hanging out the window was great. Scotty going like, I forgot what the
But
context was exactly, but it was just like, we're gonna blow ourselves up. You might as well stick your bum out the window.
yeah, and for my North American friends, it isn't a homeless person being hung outside a window, right? It's
Yeah.
your backside, your ass, right? So that's because he's that actor is proper Scotty, so he's allowed to get away with some words where the director's probably like, "What did you say? Should I allow this in? Have I just offended a whole country with this?" So yeah, it was good, wasn't
It,
it? Amusing. The
it was
one-liners were
it was
good.
very good, and that's what really made this episode shine, because they're in the middle of something that was really serious, but they knew how to drop a line like that. That even though it was humorous, it's quite possible that's how we would
Ease
really
the
treat it.
tension. Yeah.
Exactly. So many times, even when soldiers are in battle, they will go to humor, because the humor breaks it up and keeps them more acute,
Mhm.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's not uncommon. So in the way it wasn't just frivolous. Let's make a joke like, well, two Vulcans went into a bar. I mean, it. They really paid attention to dropping the humor in the right points. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. That should be the gold standard. This should be the gold standard episode going forward. If they can basically follow that more or less, they would be like on top of
Yeah.
the hill.
And they've got this format of longer than 42 minutes to tell a story now, whereas you would tell before in older Trek that it was sometimes rushed because they
Mm.
had to try and squeeze it into 42 minutes. Now they'll just do it in one episode, but it'll be 45 or 54 minutes or however long it needs to be, up to an hour, because
Mm.
it's on streaming platforms. So while we get less episodes, we do get
Well,
usually sometimes better stories.
I'm gonna correct you a little bit, because this is something you wouldn't know because you're too young. Uh, when shows came out like Star Trek and originally 67, 68, 69. Okay, those hour-long shows, not just Star Trek, but hour-long shows back then were 52 minutes with only 8
Really?
minutes of advertising. That was standard. And then over the years, that 52 minutes became 51, 50, 49, 48, until now it's 42. So you can imagine, I only had 8 minutes of advertising, and then it morphed into 20 minutes of advertising
Yeah.
almost.
And then certainly in the UK, at least, we get 3 sets of ads at 4 minutes apiece. Now, I know it's different in the States. It's like messed up. You could literally just start the intro to the show and then it goes straight to a break. That would infuriate me, Gray. Like that would, and in the
Mm.
middle of sports, that's a regular thing over in the States. They'll actually interrupt a match for or something, and that would never be allowed here, man.
Well,
Oof.
you know what? I think maybe over here they kind of took a cue from you guys. So what they've been doing the last, I'm going to say 2 years, 3 years, something like that. When they, for some commercials, not all, when they have to sandwich in whatever amount of commercials, you'll see the screen split, and you'll
Oh,
see
yeah.
the commercial on the right side with the
Yeah.
audio, but the game on the left, even though it doesn't have audio, you still see what's going on. So I thought that was kind of a good, what do you call it? Way to kind of come to the
Compromise.
middle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My thoughts quickly kind of almost mirror your thoughts. I don't give it a 10 out of 10. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's close.
Mm.
Like I say, it wasn't quite picture perfect. A couple of the little things that you've actually mentioned were taking it down just one notch for me. I won't let it detract from my enjoyment of the episode because I
Mm.
did really enjoy it. I just thought it was a bit lazy with the scavenger thing and
Yeah.
mankind being used again. And I'm like, I've kind of seen this before. It's like, and
Mm.
I
Mm.
had some questions which I think have been answered in terms of like, are these guys being kept alive that length of time, like through whatever research they've found on their way, or is this their descendants? We don't properly know. Let's just assume for me it's their descendants, and they've just that's how literally that's how you've been brought up. If you've been brought up to
Yeah.
scavenge and pillage another planet, that's what you'll do. You won't know any different. So they're probably descendants, Gray. But yeah, like the whole everything of that episode was just really, really good. From the CGI when the Enterprise just warps in at the start to save the
Yeah,
Farragut, and it
yeah,
literally
really
just
good.
starts phasing away some debris and then shielding it directly from some
Mhm.
blows. Um, to the acting, to the story, and like you say, more importantly than those other points, humor, but at the right time. Um, that was really because there was a couple of really laugh out loud moments, but it never took away from the severity of the episode
Yeah.
whatsoever. It still stayed. You were still kind of edge of your seat a little bit, and what's going to happen here. I thought they blew the ship up at the end, the scavenger ship, because originally they literally got the scavenger ship to like short circuit itself for a few moments while they made their escape, which was kind of cool. But then, as it came back to power, it's doing its thing again. It's trying to gobble up the ships, and you're like, okay, what we're going to do here? And Spock has the idea, let's actually send some torpedoes this time, but right inside and hit whatever they hit. And then the thing just went kablooey. It blew up a bit too easy. But it's a nitpick, Gray. I
Well,
don't really see it as a negative, you know.
I mean, at
Um,
first I felt the same way, but then I was thinking, like, at that point, they just they just took a pot shot because there was nothing else to do.
they
So they
just like
just
aim it
said,
in the middle and see what
just
happens.
aim in the middle and pray to God that you hit something vital. And
Yeah, and they certainly
they
did.
just got freaking lucky and hit whatever. Like
Hit
they
something
they
main.
hit the warp core of their ship. I don't know, something like that.
It's did you get vibes? I almost get Borg vibes from them, kinda, even though they didn't look like Borg, just
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah,
their
little.
behavior and how, like, remember, there's an episode of Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, where called Regeneration was the first time you see the Borg. It doesn't. I don't know if you've seen this episode, Great. It doesn't break canon, but
Hmm.
literally, it's a time paradox thing. They go to the Arctic Circle and they see frozen Borg under the ice, and they see debris from a ship. You know where that ship's from? That debris from First Contact.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
paradox.
that's
So
funny.
it goes back. It remains frozen there, and it was always there because it happened in the future, so it happened in the past. Blah blah blah. Timey wimey. And
Hmm.
then these Borg get thawed out, and they resuscitate themselves, and then they take over the research team. And before you know it, they take over the research team's ship. And next thing you know, the Enterprise is getting a call. Right, you've got a rogue ship that's got some other scientists in your area. And then the guys would be like, no, that's impossible. That ship could like barely do warp 1 or something, and now it's doing like warp 3.5 or something. They're going along from ship to ship, and they're
Mm.
literally taking it apart, absorbing its technology, and making it bigger and better. And thankfully, Enterprise is a bit more powerful than that ship, so it's able to fend it off. But at the end, before they blow up, they're able to send a signal into the deepest parts of the Delta Quadrant. And I remember them saying at the end, how long would it take that signal to get there? He's like, not anytime soon. It'll take 200 years or so for it to get there. And then the kind of Borg music come on at the end. I was like, I cover up
Yeah.
my neck when I'm vulnerable, So I'm like, oh no, here we go.
What's funny is that I may have to go back and start watching the episodes of Enterprise for two reasons. One is because I keep on hearing how good the third and fourth season was.
Oh,
When I started watching it, I watched the first 5 or 6 episodes of the first season, and I just couldn't get into it. It just got bizarre and corny to me. But then everybody tells me that it got better in the second season, but really did a job in the third and fourth, and I get,
oh yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
maybe
See,
I'm.
season 2 was the Zindi arc. That was the whole season long arc where they were literally going to take out the planet. They were literally going to destroy the planet, and Enterprise almost gets. Like, you saw the Farragut, it looked worse than that, and this is without shields, and you thought, oh my, it's one of the few moments I've had in Star Trek where my jaw was on the floor. Like, they're never surviving this, but they do. And then season 4's got lots of great. Season 3 and 4, but especially 4, have a lot of good two-parters.
Mm,
And then there's rumours of Archer coming back in a one-off kind of either cameo or a limited series of him being Federation president. That would be cool. I would be up for that because I want to see the political side of Starfleet. That could work a lot better than the Starfleet side of things could. So,
I
but
think
yeah,
if
as
they,
we go on tangents, so
well, that's okay. If they do that, though, I'd rather see a good TV movie. I really don't want to see a series of all that. I mean,
Well, they don't
mm,
think they would get 5 seasons out of it. I think it would be one kind of
mm,
thing, like a limited run, like a 6-part or something, mate.
yeah, yeah. Mm.
That could be good because listen, Archer played was a Scott Bakula was I liked him as Archer. I think he was a great captain. The first ever ship to ever go out there. No shields, no transporters at the very, very start. A lot of technologies you take for granted, they didn't have it, and it's seen them develop these things, which I found fascinating. Season 1
Mm.
is a bit meh, but it does get better after that, Gray, so bear that in mind, mate. Right, okay. We will wrap up there. Just our kind of general thoughts and opinions on episode. Very, very good, guys. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. And if we've spoiled it, apologies. You should have really watched it first. It's sensational. Let's just hope there's other good episodes between now and the end of the season, because I
Keep my
think there's
fingers
maybe
crossed.
one more humdinger in there. And then obviously, let's not forget they wired up the Enterprise with old-fashioned telephones to make calls to
I
each
thought
other.
that
That
was
was
brilliant.
brilliant.
I was,
And
yeah,
Pelia with her ancient retro bloody quarters.
yeah. She pulls these phones out. She had like 4 of them. They were all different kinds,
And then
and I was like, "It's great."
rollerblades as well, and
Yeah.
like the frisbee hat thing, that thing from the 80s, so
She's making comments about all this stuff, and she pulls it out. Oh, I did this and the blah blah blah, and I remember this. And look, it was like, wow.
can you imagine the amount of drugs Pelia must have taken back in the 60s
Oh,
and
geez.
70s? Woo! Jesus, man.
She's probably
Oh,
taking everything under the sun in 5,000 years. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. No wonder she's a bit quirky than now. Like, she sounds like she's been on something. Like, she does. She's not quite fully there, is she? She's intelligent, very wise, but
I,
she's
I thought one of the funniest lines was when one crew was going down the hallway because the alien was on the board or whatever it was, I forget, and they had their phasers out, and so was and Pelia and their group was coming in the other direction, and they ended up almost firing on Pelia's group, and they just goes, he says, hold on. He says, I didn't survive 5,000 years because I don't get shot. I thought that was a great line.
She's great. You need to
What
keep her
actually
around.
what's funny about what she said is just something to think about. If she's 5,000 years old, how the hell did she make it without having an accident? Your chances of having an accident of that nature grows as you stay around longer.
She's very
So
lucky, Gray.
I
Thankfully,
was
it's
going to
only
say
bumps and
she's real lucky.
scrapes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you never know. Right, okay, we'll leave it for there. Really good episode, guys. Let's say 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10 there. So please go and watch it. And we will be back next week for the next episode. So until next week, Gray, say goodbye to the people for me.
Goodbye. Live long and prosper.
Cheers, guys. Bye bye.